What is up, guys? It's your boy Rick GM Grinder Cactus, and today we have the guide for the Fallen Saber Grandmaster Nightfall, showcasing some recommended loadouts for all of the different classes, as well as a bunch of tips for the strike itself to make this week's Grandmaster as fast and easy as possible. And this is actually a pretty important week, and that's because Fallen Saber is actually pretty grindable. We were getting the runs down to consistently just over 10 minutes, and you could probably even go under that point, and the loot is incredible, with the Hothead Rocket Launcher being the featured weapon. This is very important to get. Not only is Arc 3.0 coming up in a couple of seasons, but now with acute burns, especially acute arc burn, which is actually active this week, stuff like the Hothead being easily the best arc rocket launcher has gone up in value significantly. You really want to have a good one to be prepared for a bunch of activities moving forward. So, first things first, let's talk about those recommended loadouts. Now, I was playing a Titan, and you could go the Thunder Crash route. Because of acute arc burn, you're going to be doing 25% more damage with that thing. But I ended up going a Bubble Sentinel Titan just because it had so much utility and was great in the boss fight. So, I am using a Ward of Dawn, Vortex Grenade, Controlled Demolition is so darn good. Then I'm also using Bastion for the survivability. Now for fragments, Echo of Undermining to apply a weaken effect was very useful, and then Echo of Leeching and Echo of Remnants. Now in terms of the weaponry, I am using firstly a Pardon Our Dust, a grenade launcher, just a great blinding auto-loading grenade launcher with Demolitionist, which is I think what you want. Just having more Vortex grenades is so darn useful, especially when you can have access to the seasonal mod that lets you stun overload champions, which there are a lot of in this Grandmaster with your grenades, Void grenades specifically. Then I think the secret sauce that absolutely one person at least should be running is the Risk Runner. So the Risk Runner, it's actually going to reduce incoming arc damage by about 50%. Almost all of the enemies in this Grandmaster do arc damage, and acute arc burn is on, so having a Risk Runner and combining that with something like an arc damage resist for your chest piece is going to actually let you survive quite a lot of arc-based attacks that would otherwise one-hit kill you. And when you do take an arc-based attack, then the Risk Runner gets juiced up, and as you can see from the background gameplay, you can do a lot of damage with this thing, and it's an SMG, which means you can put on Overload SMG rounds to deal with those Overload champs. And of course, to again take advantage of that arc burn, we have the Hothead as my heavy weapon, impact casing, tracking just for more consistency, and then Vorpal weapon. I'm still hunting for that god roll, but this is pretty darn good. Now I do want to mention, if you don't have a Hothead, because obviously you're going to be wanting to farm this week to get one, something like the Sleepless, as you can see from the Dreaming City, and remember you can actually focus Umbral Engrams into Dreaming City weapons within the helm, that is going to probably be your best bet until you get a decent Hothead. Now, for my exotic armor, the Heart of Inmost Light is fantastic. Using my abilities improves the regen and power of my other abilities, and then I'm really just using a ton of mods to produce Void Elemental Wells so I can pick them up and get more ability energy. Because all my weapons are arc, because I'm taking advantage of the burn, there's not a lot of synergies with Font of Might, Volatile Rounds, etc. So I'm just producing them for the sake of producing them for the abilities. Then moving on from there, for the Warlock, we have a Shadebinder. Now this is going to give you the highest chance of success, but if you're going for speed runs, you could also use a Controverse Hold Void Warlock, just the normal grenade build, so keep that in mind. But for this one, of course, we have Cold Snap grenades, then we've got Bleak Watcher to turn them into stasis turrets, Glacial Harvest for all of those stasis shards, then we've got Whisper of Fissures to increase the size of a Frozen Burst, Whisper of Conduction to track the stasis shards to you, Whisper of Bonds for more super energy, and then Whisper of Torment for more grenade energy. In terms of the weapons, firstly we have a Fell Taradiddle. This bow is fantastic, but we're actually using Shoot to Loot. there's just a lot of circumstances where heavy ammo falls down into the like arc death pit or something like that, and this just lets you shoot it and get that ammo, or be behind cover, shoot the heavy and get it. It's actually quite useful. Of course, explosive head as well. Then we've got a forbearance with ambitious assassin plus chain reaction. This is just a fantastic arc grenade launcher. And then lastly, we do have a Galahorn, just mainly to provide those Wolfpack rounds to the other two guys using hotheads. Moving on from there, the featured exotic, of course, is the Osmiancy gloves. I think this is the de facto new best Shadebinder exotic for PvE. Just being able to have two stasis turrets up at the same time is nuts. And of course, we're using elemental shards to turn all of those stasis shards, and we're producing a ton into stasis elemental wells. So what we can do is we can use stuff like protective light and elemental charge to just constantly be charged with light. Heck, even striking light, which the secondary perk gives you damage resistance when you're sprinting. That's why we're using that. Then moving on from there, for our hunter, of course, we are going for the invisibility Night Stalker hunter. Mobius quiver, as always, fantastic. Vortex grenade, trapper's ambush plus vanishing step to give you all of that invisibility. Then we've got echo of undermining to cause weaken, echo of persistence so your invisibility lasts longer, and then echo of obscurity where you get a finisher and you become invisible. That one is super important. For the weapons here, we actually are using an arbalist. This is actually also important because there are going to be like 3 void shields throughout the entire strike. Every other shield is going to be arc, so obviously all our arc weapons are taking advantage of that, but just one arbalist can deal with those very limited number of void shields instead of someone else having to actually commit to a void weapon. Then we do have a Sweet Sorrow. This is another fantastic arc primary here, stats for all, 1 for all, and then land tank giving you a bit more survivability, and of course a God Roll Hothead. Now for the featured exotic, we are using an Aeon Swift to give you heavy ammo for your teammates when you get a finisher, and of course we're combining that with Lucian finisher, and that is just the wombo combo, like most powerful thing you can do this season for PvE. And we got an assortment of random well-making mods after that. Now moving on to tips for the strike itself. In the first Warsat section, you're going to stand down here and cause a fallen ship to spawn. As soon as you see it spawn, shoot out the turrets, because if you don't, you're going to get absolutely eviscerated by these things. They shoot arc. Also, when that ship is coming in, you can get off the Warsat. In fact, that's what you really want to do, because if you linger on this zone too long and the percentage goes up too high, more fallen ships are going to spawn behind you. You want one to spawn, drop off all the enemies, kill them easily, focus your attention on one place, and then when they're not spawning anymore, hop back on and cause either more ships to come or more enemies to spawn. Again, don't just stand in this Warsat and get the percentage to go up and up, otherwise you're easily overwhelmed. Now moving on to the inside section, as you can see, one stasis turret to the left doorway where all these enemies are spawning will completely freeze them solid and stop anyone from coming through, so that is a great placement right there. Additionally, while it is best to hold out back here where I'm holding out, there are going to be some invisible marauders that come right up to you, so make sure you can, like I do, throw down a bubble, have some defensive capabilities here, or just really be aware of them, because, you know, you're fine until suddenly all your health is gone from a melee. But once you do deal with all of these enemies, then a coolant vent will be exposed and you have to shoot it to continue. Don't do this just yet. Have the invisibility hunter able to do this, because what's going to happen is that, as you can see, the other 2 players are going to back beyond this hallway that you originally came through. Then the invisibility hunter is going to shoot that vent and cause 2 overload champions to spawn at the same time in this hallway. As you can see, you want to either throw a void grenade or get some shots in them, stun them both right away at the same time, and just eviscerate them with rocket launchers. If you can spawn kill these 2 guys right away, then it lets you do what, as you can see, is happening in the background gameplay. You just stay in this hallway, the hunter comes and makes everyone invisible, And then you just run through the vents. As you can see, you can skip all of these enemies, and that is absolutely going to save you a ton of time, resources, and probably deaths. Now, for the electric hallway right here, just make sure the invisibility hunter is doing this part while the other two people are getting ready to spawn camp the shanks when they arrive. But also, when your guy with the orb gets right to the place where he's supposed to deposit, there is going to be an explosive shank that spawns. Just don't shoot that guy right away. Make sure your guy can deposit and kind of get out of the way before exploding the exploder shank. It happens more than you think. From there, you really just have a high enemy density in these small rooms. Stuff like blinding grenades and stasis are fantastic in these parts, just completely stopping enemies when they're funneling out of a spawn, so you can deal with them pretty darn easily. Remember to use your rocket launchers quite a bit because your hunter should be spawning a ton of heavy ammo. And especially with this very last part before the boss fight, there's like 3 or 4 overload champions here, so getting a grenade or shooting multiple at the same time and then just going to town with rockets is the way to go. You don't need to finish literally all 4, that's way too much heavy. Just try to kill like 3 off of a good stun and then try to finish the last one, and then maybe like the barrier champion in this room as well. Because things are going to go wrong if you try to finish literally every single one when there's so many in such a small area. But moving on from there to the actual boss fight, firstly, just be a little careful when you jump down here, because for whatever reason, there's still the glitch where it randomly kills you if you like jump down it weird. It's been years, Bungie has yet to do anything about it, of course, but once you are down here, you're going to find, again, those 2 void shielded servitors, like the only ones in the darn strike. So take care of them, and then the boss is going to spawn, and this part is pretty important. So we found we could pretty easily hold out on these kind of left stairs right here. There's a little bit of cover if you crouch down, and then with 1 bastion shield or a warlock rift, you can survive here pretty much no problem. The important part is that you need to absolutely eviscerate the boss as quickly as possible. So again, having like a Gallhorn and a couple of hotheads is going to destroy this guy. Make sure that you throw one of your weakened grenades to start the encounter, all of that stuff, because you want to get him immune so he doesn't shoot at you and he teleports back to the back of the map, and then you can just deal with all the shanks that are spawning. Then you're going to kill a bunch of shanks. You have a couple of barrier champions, really not the biggest deal to take out. And then once all the enemies are dead, then the boss is going to become unimmune and teleport forward. Same thing. Just go to town, try to get that guy out of there as quickly as possible. You want him immune, so now he's going to teleport back and you can deal with the shanks again. However, in this particular wave, there's going to be a couple of sniper shanks that spawn kind of near the tops of the map, so just be aware of those guys. You want to take those guys out as quickly as possible. Like, use arbalist ammo, it doesn't matter. Like, really make sure to kill those guys because they can be problematic. But if you do spawn kill them, get them out of there, then you have like a couple more, or at least like 1 more barrier champion to deal with, and then for the last 2 chunks of the boss's health, he's not going to teleport away again. So you have to go for a melt at this point. So this is why you see me putting down my bubble, so we can get that weapons of light boost. And also the boss is going to be shooting at you during this time. So just as you can see, like dipping in and out of the bubble right here was just fantastic. And thanks to the hothead that's boosted by that arc burn, we were able to take this guy out in no time. So again, you do want to have pretty much full heavy going into this boss phase, so you can go for those 3 different like melts. You just don't want the boss roaming around and shooting at you, otherwise it becomes a nightmare. And so guys, that is it for the video. I hope you enjoyed and found this informative. If you did, please remember to help me out by simply rating and especially sharing this video. If you guys want to see more Destiny 2 content similar to this, don't be afraid to slap that subscribe button. If you want to get in touch with me and keep up to date with the latest channel activity, the best way is to follow me on Twitter at @RickCacus. That is linked in the description down below. Again, I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, have a good day.